So, most of you have probably heard that Woody Allen quote 80% of success is showing up. And in my experience, that is dead on. Consistent attendance is probably the closest you could get to a cheat code for life. It's one of the easiest things you can do, and also the most important for your success. Now, there are two types of showing up. There's the physical and literal side of showing up, which is actually being in the room or being there in cyberspace or however you're showing up. And then there's showing up mentally, which is being there with your mind and paying attention fully to what's going on. If you can do both, that's best, but one or the other is still better than not showing up at all. And here's the thing I've noticed is that if you show up physically, I mean, you always carry your brain with you. You're going to be there showing up mentally somehow. So that's probably the more important point that I want to drive home for this video. Showing up consistently is really like success 101. It's the first step toward professional success. It's the first thing you need to have down. It's the foundation for everything that happens. Because, first of all, if you don't show up, you basically don't exist to whoever you're working with. Your value, when you're not there, you're just nothing. So, how can you get any sort of success if you're not showing up for it? And the second part of it is, if you're showing up but your attendance is spotty, then that comes across as spotty interest. Because I remember back when I was a little kid and I hated sports, and I would skip sports games just because I hated it. I didn't want to go. And so most people have had experiences like that in their lives. So they know that when you're not showing up consistently, they even if there isn't something wrong, they're going to be suspicious. They're going to think you're uncommitted, that you really don't care about what you're doing. So that's totally important that you show up consistently. And I don't mean on like a B or B plus level. Like, anybody should be able to get 95% attendance, or somewhere between 95 and 99%. Like, that's pretty much should be the average, but too many people I see are falling way below that. If you decide not to show up for something, and first of all, it should be a conscious decision all the time. If you decide not to show up for something, that's fine, as long as your reason is to show up for something else more important. Even if it's figuratively, if it's mentally showing up for something else. Like, the reason people don't show up when they're sick is because they have to show up for the healing process. That's what it is. So really, there's never a time where you're not showing up for something unless you want to be unsuccessful. And now, you have to have your priorities straight. And if you don't, it can really screw you up. One thing to really pay attention to is not just your own priorities, but how many people are counting on you. For instance, recently, someone I know, I won't name names, but someone I know was supposed to show up at a session for 20 or 30 musicians, and we're counting on this person to record us. And so we find out that instead of showing up for that, he showed up for a date with his girlfriend. Didn't let us know ahead of time, didn't even make up a fake excuse or anything, just did not show up. And because of that, we all wasted our time waiting for him. And when the folks came back after finding out what happened, they were basically like, you guys probably shouldn't do business with this person. So like that, his reputation. Think of showing up like a performer or an athlete would. Everybody has to show up for things like concerts and games. And the people I see not showing up for a lot of things, they tend to be good at showing up for those because they're perceived as more important to them or something. But it's all the same. Like, you should be applying that same passion of attendance to everything you do. Really, that's the way strong and determined people do that. They show up when they're sick just because they feel there's something to be gained. I've showed up to vocal lessons sick and learned how to train my voice while I'm sick. Like, that's something you wouldn't expect would happen, but there are opportunities like that. And my sister, she had to perform in the Nutcracker some lead role while she had mono, and she did it. And that's just like, that shows how much passion is involved. If you don't do anything else except put forth that great effort into your attendance, people are going to know that you're passionate about what you do and they want to work with you. It's that simple. And if you're not getting straight A attendance, you better have real excuses, because without those, people are just going to assume you don't care as much. And I find anyways, if I'm really passionate about something, I never have to pull a suspicious excuse of any kind, because there's always a super obvious reason, like, oh, I'm throwing up or something. Like, you're super sick. Now, if you want to go deeper into this, there's even more variables that show you're passionate. And the two big ones are coming prepared and coming on time. And I'll admit I personally suck at the second one. It's something I need to improve on. Coming prepared is probably second priority, maybe showing up on time third. Just think of it from the perspective of whoever you're showing up for. Sometimes the priorities of being on time versus being prepared kind of swap depending on the situation. But I've always found showing up is always the number one thing. When given a very free option, you should, if possible, you should just show up anyways. And it might end up being one of those awkward situations where it's like two people showed up or whatever. But those, I find, are usually the best, some of the best moments. You get to really meet people personally because there's nothing else to do to, like, you know, break the ice except say hi, like, what do you do? Like, what's your interest and stuff? And so many times I've really met new people through that kind of thing. So that's the benefit of showing up in situations where you're not sure if everybody else is going to show up. Just show up anyways. Because I've found the greater intimacy and attention you can get put on yourself or on the people around you is one of the best things ever, like, no matter the situation. So I hope you found that helpful, and I hope all the people in my life that I see with spotty attendance and stuff like that kind of take this as a wake-up call, like, hey, it's to my own benefit that I show up to everything I can. And if I'm going to show up, I might as well show up mentally too and pay attention and make the most of this situation, because this is my time. I'm going to use it well. And if you show up, people will make sure that your time is used well too. Basically, all I'm trying to say is that showing up, it's one of the easiest things you can do to be more successful. So if you just start doing it, start getting on top of things, showing up to everything you can and the best things you can for you and the people around you. Never forget the people around you that are counting on you. So show up for all the right things, and I guarantee you're going to be getting the most out of life that you can. Hope that's helpful. Please click subscribe to my new channel. I gotta get it going. And like this video if you like it, please. Thanks a lot.